So this is Miles Davis's gravestone. You'll find it in Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx, New York. And there are two things on it that are incorrect, that are wrong. There's the song, and then arguably the Sir. Now let's start with the song. These are the first two bars for Solar, which is a song that Miles Davis recorded in the 1950s and then copyrighted in the 1960s. Of course, Miles Davis didn't originally write Solar. The song Sunny by Chuck Wayne was written and recorded in the 40s and sounds almost identical to Solar. Okay, so Future Tim here, and I wanted to put a bit more in this video about the history of the song Solar, where Miles might have got it from, but that really deserves its own video, so I'm going to make it in a couple of weeks' time. If you'd like to see it, please subscribe and ring the bell. The authorship of the song isn't what I'm actually talking about though, with regard to the gravestone. The thing that's incorrect is the transcription itself, specifically, the rhythm is wrong. The notes on the stone play like this. But here's the recording that Miles made in the 1950s. The version on the gravestone starts the first note a whole beat earlier than Miles played it on the recording. So what happened? You would assume that the tomb of Miles Davis would have an accurate version etched into it of his work. Well, as with many long-standing mistakes in jazz, this one can be chalked up to students at Berkeley. This incorrect rhythm was found in the first real book, which was illegally made by a bunch of Berkeley students in the 1970s and is riddled with errors. It seems that Miles Davis's daughter, who commissioned the gravestone, used the lead sheet from the original real book as the basis for the inscription. And that's excusable, I guess, to a point. Miles Davis died in 1991, but the legal 6th edition of the real book wasn't published by Hal Leonard until 2004. That said, the new real book from Chuck Scher was published in 1988, and it did have the right rhythm, so it would have been an easy mistake to correct, even at the time. What's really interesting though is that the Chuck Wayne version of the song, Sunny, actually does have a different rhythm for that first note, but instead of moving it forward one beat, it moves it forward 2 beats. The really charitable version of it is that maybe the kids who wrote the real book were averaging the two, but somehow I don't think that's how it happened. Okay, so that brings us to the second error on Miles Davis's gravestone, and this one's a little contestable. It has to do with the word Sir. Now, the title of Sir is almost exclusively associated with the British tradition of knighthood, and it was, of course, based on the medieval practice, but these days, it's a custom that's almost completely symbolic, reserved for aging rock stars and people who are ostensibly important. But Miles Davis's use of the Sir honorific comes from the Catholic tradition of knighthood. Essentially, within the Pope's jurisdiction, or the Holy See, knighthoods can be bestowed. And one of the institutions that falls under the Pope's jurisdiction and is able to award knighthoods is the Order of Malta, which Miles Davis was inducted into in 1988. The Order of Malta, also known as the Knights of Malta, claim continuity with the Knights Hospitaller. The Knights Hospitaller from the Middle Ages. The order got its name from the 300 or so years that it ruled the island nation of Malta in the Mediterranean from about 1500 to around 1800. During their time there, they built the capital Valletta, the fortress city, and they defended Malta from the Ottomans in the Great Siege of Malta, but ultimately they were exiled when Napoleon took control of the island around 1800. Importantly, the Knights have never had jurisdiction over a territory ever since. They've only ever been a religious order. So the Sir in Sir Miles Davis, it doesn't have a nation to sort of give it legitimacy, although it does carry a bit of weight in the Catholic Church. Of course, Miles wasn't Catholic. In fact, he wasn't really religious at all. He's been quoted as saying, "I don't really follow a religion per se. Most religious folks I've met are jive. If I did follow any religion, it would be Islam. It's the only religion that makes sense." So I'd argue that throws a little shade on the whole Sir thing. Additionally, in the United States, where Miles was a citizen, the government doesn't officially recognize foreign titles. Effectively, the US citizen title is the only one that the government cares about. For foreign royalty visiting the US, in practice, it's a little more complicated, but in any case, for Miles, even if his knighthood was completely endorsed by an overseas nation that had full nation status at the UN, the US government wouldn't have cared. Now, with all that information, you can make your decision as to whether or not Miles Davis was a Sir or not. Jump into the comments after you've liked this video and battle it out. I personally think it's a bit of a stretch, But I would also argue that it probably doesn't matter at all. Whether he was a Sir, an Earl, a Duke, or the Prince of Darkness, he was, at the end of the day, Miles Davis. And I think we can all agree that carries a whole lot more weight than what he or anyone else decided to call him. Thank you for watching. If you had a good time, please like the video. And if you want to see my upcoming video about the history of Solar and whether or not Miles Davis pinched it or not, please subscribe and ring the bell. Until next time, see you later.